Here it is, another episode of the Infinite Banter Podcast. My name is Mark Jolliffe, a.k.a. DJ Soundwave. Thanks for checking out the show. Really hyped for this one. Got a chance to talk to journalist and author, the one and only Jill Greenleigh. She has a new book out right now called Go-Go Speaks, The Heartbeat of a Culture. And we talk about the go-go scene, go-go music, D.C., where it originated from, and it was just a lot of fun talking with her and kind of schooling me a little bit on go-go music. And I found out that there's a lot of songs that I've liked all my life that are go-go influenced. A lot of Curtis Blow stuff. And it really connects to hip-hop music because she used to write articles for Word Up magazine and Rap Masters. So stay tuned. Jill Greenleigh is here. We're going to talk about her new book, Go-Go Speaks, The Heartbeat of a Culture, and much, much more. So stay tuned. Can't wait to bring that interview to you guys. I also want to talk about Fan Expo. Another comic book convention came to the Chicago area, and I got a chance to go. Had a lot of fun going to that. I want to talk about that after the flashback segment here, so stay tuned. A lot to get into in this episode, but as always, before we go forward, we go back a bit. And on the last episode, I had MC and producer Messiah of Madness out of Pittsburgh, and he talked about his new EP, You Already Know. So here's a quick flashback of that episode. Go check it out if you have not heard it. Messiah of Madness, flashback on the Infinite Banter Podcast.
And that song from BDP, a word from our sponsor, that yeah, that's from my dad's song too.
Yeah.
You know what's funny? I used to listen to that song all the time, and I'll be playing it in the house. And I never knew that my dad had anything to do with that song until like about 3-4 years ago, actually.
How did you find out? Like, how was it finally revealed to you?
I think I was Google my dad on the internet and like songs that he's on and stuff like that, and I see now, oh shit, a word from our sponsor. I listened. Actually, when that album came out, I was living with my dad at the time,
right?
And I was playing it all the time and never knew it.
Yeah, I thought you were gonna say something like you kicked the door down, like, hey, you playing my song in there? I didn't know you liked my music. Yeah. Wait, who the hell is KRS-One? What is this?
Right. and I never knew it.
Definitely go back and check out that episode with Messiah of Madness, talking about his new EP, You Already Know. And one of the things I really like about doing this podcast, it's, of course, I find out about new music, stuff that's out right now or about to come out. But when the artist or whoever I have on tells me about something I've never heard before from the past, and he had brought up that Blowfly song, and I had to look it up. It's hilarious. Definitely go check it out. And basically it fits to the theme of this episode here, because I'm going to talk to Jill Greenleigh, the author of the new book, Go-Go Speaks, The Heartbeat of a Culture. And I learned a lot about go-go music and stuff from the past and how, a lot of it connects to some of the music that I like. So it all comes full circle. Stuff from the past, stuff from the current era ties in, and you can kind of see where the groundwork is for some of these songs that influence current artists or past artists. I always get geeked about that kind of stuff. You dig for something and you come up with other things, and that's what music is. You know what I mean? You just find different genres and eras and sounds in something that is similar or maybe parallels something that you really are passionate about, and you find out there's something over here that's not that different. There's something that helped build a genre of music that you currently like or are interested in. So stay tuned for that. Talking with Jill Greenleigh in a few minutes here. But I wanted to talk about Fan Expo in Chicago. Just wrapped up I think it's our third year here in Chicago. New comic book convention that started a couple years back. Been going to these things since 2004, so it's been like 20 years of comic book conventions and digging for comic books, and you got the meet and greet with different celebrities and artists and such, and getting Funko Pops. I found a Biz Markie Funko Pop at this Fan Expo. I didn't even know they made a Biz Markie one, so I definitely had to grab it. Get some comic books, and a lot like with records, you go crate digging. Comic book digging is very similar. You get a big white box and you just dig in there, and you find some gems sometimes in these bargain boxes. Not in the Silver Age or the Golden Age boxes. Those are, you got to have your wallet pretty fat to buy anything from those. But to get something in those dollar bins, you find some old like X-Men comic that you needed, that you didn't have it, and you find it in there for $1, and it's just like a great deal. So I love going to comic book conventions. It's something I like doing, and I'm glad that post-COVID they've come back, and it's almost as if that era didn't happen, because they were kind of shut down for a year or so there. So understandably, things changed. Now they're kind of getting back to full steam. So big shout out to Fan Expo. You can go check them out in any city near you. They're going to be in Canada. They're in Dallas, San Francisco, New Orleans. They come back here to the Chicago area on August 15th through the 17th. So you can buy your tickets now a year in advance. Definitely a big shout out to Fan Expo. Whenever you get a chance to go to these comic book conventions, go support these comic book artists and creators and all your just local independent artists who are making things that they're selling at their tables and such. So definitely glad to see that comic book conventions are back and in full effect. Big salute to Fan Expo Chicago and to the team of Morgan Harris and Tom Elliott. I appreciate them inviting me and going out to the convention representing the Infinite Banter podcast. So go check out Fan Expo and check them out as they come to a city near you. And you're checking out the Infinite Banter podcast, where sometimes I will talk about comic books, or even in like today's episode, we'll talk about actual books or magazines. And we're going to do that with Jill Greenleigh coming up here shortly. She has a new book out called Go-Go Speaks, The Heartbeat of a Culture. You can find it on Amazon. Go look for it. It's a great book. Can't wait to talk to her about it and bring that interview to you guys. But this podcast here, you can find it on all platforms. Rate and review the show. Check out Spotify for the playlist. Poll questions. Find us on Facebook and Instagram at Infinite Banter Podcast. Same for Twitter. I'm there, but I'm not there. But I have an account, so feel free to go check it out. And definitely don't forget to check out our sponsor, super7.com/Infinite Banter Podcast. They have all the cool merch. I don't know how many figures. I got like at least 15 of these reaction Super 7 hip-hop figures from there, as well as a couple of Rocky figures and Bruce Lee, and go on and on. There's so many cool figures on there. They got a new Outcast Aquemini cover figures. Oh, man, they're going to kill my wallet. They got a Bismarcky Just a Friend one that comes with a piano. It's crazy. They're going to bleed me here. So go check out super7.com/Infinite Banter Podcast. All right, enough rambling. Let's get to it. Jill Greenleigh is here. Talk about her new book, Go-Go Speaks, The Heartbeat of a Culture. But before we do anything, the show never begins. Before we go to D.C., we go to Queens first. We talk to DMC. He says this, and now the show is official.
Yo, what's up? This is me, DMC, the K-I-N-G, the greatest MC in history. And right now, you're listening to Infinite Banter, because we will banter on forever, because this is the only place for all of y'all to ever be. I be Infinite Banter.
You're tuned into the Infinite Banter Podcast. I'm Mark Jolliffe, and I'm really excited to bring on my guest. She has a great book out now called Go-Go Speaks, The Heartbeat of a Culture, and it dives into the music and culture of go-go music, a genre that was formed in the streets of Washington, D.C. She also has done pieces for Word Up Magazine and Rap Masters as well. Welcome to the show, award-winning journalist, author, and advocate of go-go music and culture, the one and only Jill Greenleigh. How's it going, Jill?
It's going great. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. This is exciting. Like I was telling you before, I think I'm one of those people who've always known go-go music, but maybe didn't quite know everything that I've heard was considered go-go music. So I'm just really getting it, into like rediscovering some of the songs and groups. And, I'm a big hip hop fan. So a lot of the songs and then maybe are influenced by the music going back to like the late 70s, early 80s.
Yes.
Before we even talk about your book and everything, where's your like introduction to music? I'm sure there's a great story for when you first heard a song or an album or something that kind of got you going. Did you grow up in D.C. also?
So it's a funny story. Yes, I was born in D.C. and grew up in the Maryland suburbs, about 5 miles outside of D.C. in Silver Spring, Maryland. And I went to private school, and taking the school provided door-to-door transportation. So it would pick up the kids from Northwest D.C., and then come through Silver Spring to pick up, us. And the majority of the kids on that bus were Black. And so here's this little 11-year-old Jewish kid, me, listening to the Impressions singing Amen.
That's awesome.
And, somebody always, like one of the older kids or the bus driver's name was Catfish. Somebody always had a radio, right? And so we're all singing together on the bus, the latest and greatest songs of the day. So I was introduced to Parliament Funkadelic, the Isley Brothers. This was before rap. This was about in probably 1978. 1977, all of a sudden we're listening to the radio one day and Chuck Brown and the Soul Searchers, Bustin' Loose comes on.
That's a classic.
And I'm like, whoa, what is this? even at 11, I knew, that this was something special. And I would take all my allowance every week, which was about $1, and then maybe a couple dollars more. And I would catch the subway to Douglas Records in downtown DC, and I'd buy the latest 12-inch go-go hits or a PA tape. So what a PA tape was the bands had their sound engineer record them off the PA system, and people would buy those
Oh,
tapes.
wow. How good were the quality of those? They had to be
Were
good.
great.
Yeah.
They were good. And DC doesn't have gangs. We have crews. And so to hear your crew mentioned as one of the, go-go is call and response. It came out of, it's basically delivered from the church. And so the call and response, to hear your crew's name or your name, especially on a PA tape, that was really something. And it's funny because the people in DC, they can just hear a little snippet of the tape. They're like, oh, that was Rare Essence back at the Ibex Club May 3rd, 1986. You know what I'm saying? Like, They know that was the thing.
Your story really parallels, hip hop in a way too, because that's how a lot of, Cold Crush, you always hear those stories about how those tapes got passed around. And that's how people like Run and D first heard, stuff. And that's how they would get inspired. And they would go on, of course, to, do something. So it's really interesting how like those tapes were such a big influence on you and people who wanted to get a taste of the music, because obviously it wasn't on record, right? Some of those songs. The genre is really good live, right? It doesn't really work well as like stereo recordings as much, right?
Right. I mean, people have tried to capture the live essence of it. One record in particular is Rare Essence live at Breeze's Metro Club. And that was Rare Essence live. That whole record was just them live. And, it really does have to be experienced live. You have to be there and see the vibe, feel the vibe, just get into it. You won't be able to stand still. I mean, it's going to make your body move.
There you go. And you mentioned Chuck Brown. I mean, he's like the godfather of it, isn't he?
That's right. He is the godfather of go-go. He created the genre. So he first was in a regular, like a top 40 R&B type band. And he came up with an idea to have the drummer keep the beat going in between songs. So that way the people wouldn't, get up on the dance floor, go back to their seat, get back up on the dance floor. This was in an effort to keep people on the dance floor. And it's one drummer, he asked, Ken Scoggins, was like, no, I don't want to do it. And he didn't do it. But then he asked Ricky Wellman. And although Ricky was reluctant, he went ahead and did it. And then that's how it was formed. And, go-go really is, it's heavily percussive. So you've got the drums, you've got the congas. You have 4 congas, actually. The junior congas and the congas, and then you have timbales, and for sure the cowbell. And all of those being played, simultaneously really gives it the sound. So these are large bands. They're not like these little 4-piece bands. It's not uncommon to see 8 to 11 to 12 people on the stage, but everybody has something to do. You have the number 1 mic, which is the lead talker. You have the number 2 mic. You've got a guitar player, a bass player, probably 2 keyboard players. And if you're lucky, you have a horn section. So, that's kind of what it is.
Yeah, I was looking up, before I talked to you here, some older groups from the past, and I'm noticing, like, listing the members. It's like, oh my God, this is bigger than like Wu-Tang Clan. There's like 12 people here in this group, and you're right, it's a machine. There's so many moving parts and different instruments, and you mentioned cowbell. That's one that I definitely have caught. Some of the songs I've been playing. I was thinking about like regional music. Like I'm in Chicago, so the blues is what we're known for here, or house music, or New Orleans with jazz, and New York, of course, hip hop, and all kinds of things. Do you feel go-go gets its recognition? Obviously, your book will help kind of shine a light on it, but I don't know if everybody knows what go-go music is, right? Does it seem like it's something it's been around for a long time, but there's people who probably have no idea what that even is.
Well, some people, like yourself, you recognize, but you don't know that it has a name.
Correct.
Right. So, like we just talked about, Chuck Brown was the godfather, but then you had the big three under that. You have Rare Essence, you have Trouble Funk, and you have EU, Experience Unlimited, which they now shortened it. It's EU. But, most people don't realize, but a song that most everybody knows, The Butt from the movie School Days.
Right. Spike Lee.
That is actually a go-go song. EU did that song, and that went worldwide.
Huge hit. Yeah. The video and everything. I remember.
Yeah, it was a huge hit. And then, Rare Essence was able to crack, Billboard with some of their songs. They have Work the Wall. They were signed to Uptown for a little while, and they were on the soundtrack to Strictly Business. And then Trouble Funk was probably the first group that went around the world.
Right.
Trouble Funk played at the Montreux Jazz Festival in the 70s in Switzerland, in front of an audience of every major musician that there is. They just really got their start because on the back of our albums here, we didn't really have record company. Each band kind of made their own record company. And so the album would have some band member's phone number, to get in touch with the band. And somebody went away to the army, and they were in Germany, and they had been going to a club, and they're telling, the DJ, oh, this is horrible. And so he finally brings in his Trouble Funk record, and he tells the DJ, play this. DJ played it. That was it. The crowd went wild. A promoter called Trouble Funk off the phone number on the back of the
That's
record.
awesome.
And while they were in Germany, they booked some more dates. And, it took them around the world.
And Trouble Funk, for those listening, you probably have heard them. Maybe you don't even know it. Anybody that's a Curtis Blow fan, you've heard Trouble Funk. That's basically it right there.
Yes. Curtis Blow worked with Trouble Funk. And as a matter of fact, when Trouble was signed to, I believe it was Island Records, but I could be mistaken, Island hired Bootsy Collins to come in and produce the album. But the thing is, it couldn't be translated. And although we all love Bootsy Collins, that album just wasn't fabulous. You know what I mean? All the big bands have been signed to a label. The older bands have been signed to a label, but they just didn't know what to do with it. They didn't know how to market it. And so, again, it's just something that's best heard and felt live. Even Junkyard Band. I don't know if you're familiar with the songs Sardines and Pork and Beans, but even Junkyard was signed to Def Jam and worked with Rick Rubin.
It's funny you brought them up because just the other day I was watching Tougher Than Leather on YouTube. It's free on there for anybody who wants. And I've seen the movie 100 times. And they're on. Yeah, there's a performance by the Junkyard Band on there. Sardines. That song, and I love that record. Yeah, it's huge. I didn't know it was on Def Jam. It makes sense though because of Rick Rubin and Russell Simmons had that it would have been on Def Jam.
And you see how young they were, right?
Oh, they're like kids.
Yes, Junkyard Band was a band that started when they were in the ages from 8 to like 13. And, they're still playing strong today, and they still have a lot of the original members that still play with them. And they've been doing it for 30-something years, 40 years.
It's amazing. I was singing Sardines. I have a 5-year-old daughter, and I was singing that in the house, and now she knows it. It's like I got to get her into some more stuff. I got to get her to Trouble Funk and things like that. But I was just digging, when I was watching, it's like, oh yeah, Sardines. I remember that this is a go-go record. And, yes. Back to Curtis Blow, like I'm Chillin' is one of my all-time favorite Curtis Blow songs. And it's obvious more than ever to me that that's a go-go record. It's totally got all the elements of it in there.
Yeah, and Party Time also.
Yes, that one too, correct.
Yep. And Salt and Pepper, Shake Your Thing. They worked with EU, Experience Unlimited.
Oh, yeah. That's an obvious one.
Matter of fact, when I was doing my book, I reached out to Salt. I had some people from the hip hop industry. I interviewed them in the book because coming to DC, even you could be the top seller in the nation, but you couldn't play behind a go-go band. You could fill up the Capitol Center, but if the go-go band played before you, everybody left. And so Salt and Pepper would be standing there looking at each other. You know what I'm saying?
That's great.
So everybody had to humble themselves when they came to DC, and because they had to play before. And normally Rare Essence or Chuck Brown or EU closed the show. Trouble Funk was out on the road at that time. They were touring with groups like the Big Boys or Fishbone. They really crossed over into the punk scene. They had a lot of white people cross over and become fans of Trouble Funk, because they were involved. They just had a sound that, that they could play on the same stages with these punk artists.
That's amazing. Think about like Salt and Pepper, maybe at the height of their, their career, or you're having a big hit record out. There's no way you guys can go on after after them. They've got to go. Yeah, that's amazing. And that's obviously that's a DC thing, right? I mean, anywhere else that probably wouldn't have worked, but right there, that's
Right.
That's where you've got to know your lineup and you've got to have it worked a certain way. There's a couple other songs that popped in my head ever since, like I said, I've been researching it. Dougie Fresh seems like somebody who would have done a lot of go-go records. It feels like some of his stuff would have been, maybe they're influenced by go-go records. And I was thinking of Chub Rock, Treat 'Em Right. I don't know if that counts, but I was thinking of that song.
You're right about Dougie Fresh.
Yeah.
So Dougie Fresh has always been a DC fan favorite because he embraced go-go. As a matter of fact, he did an album dedicated to Chuck Brown.
That's awesome.
I think the album was called This One's for Chuck Brown. And I mean, they were friends. And Dougie Fresh was also very good friends with some of the members of Rare Essence. And they've played together, they've toured together. They've done some go-go versions of his songs. And so you're very right about Dougie Fresh.
And another song, one of my all-time favorite songs of all time, A. Marie's One Thing. That is a definite go-go song.
Yeah. Rich Harrison is from the DC area. He was the producer on that. And absolutely, that's a great song. Even the non-vocal track, just the music track, is really hot.
Like I said, I've been delving into it a little bit, and I'm like, okay, that's definitely one. And I was looking up, I saw online it said DJ Kool's Let Me Clear My Throat is considered a go-go record as well.
So yes, DJ Kool, his records, he's done a few things. Yeah, I mean, he's on our stages too, on the go-go stages. He is a part of go-go, no question.
And what's the scene like now for go-go music? Has it kind of hit a dip? Is it coming back? I'm guessing live music is always around no matter what genre it is, but have you felt like it's maybe even having a comeback, or are people interested in it as they were maybe 10, 15 years ago?
So DC has always been a musical city. I mean, if you look at it, Marvin Gaye came from here. The Howard Theater is a legendary venue. It may not be talked about as much as the Apollo Theater in the circles that are around today, but the Howard Theater was a major entertainment venue here where everybody stopped through there. James Brown, everybody. And so DC has always been a musical city. So there's always live music. There's always been live music. In the 80s, go-go kind of had a bad reputation, but the media did that. Like I said, we don't have gangs here. We have crews here.
Right.
And so it may have been a situation where some people from different neighborhoods that they had a beef with met up at one of the venues where a band was playing. But everybody tried to blame it on the music, but it wasn't. It was an internal beef between two people or two neighborhoods that just escalated when they saw each other at the go-go. It went from that point to being signed into law in 2020, just before the pandemic. By DC Mayor Muriel Bowser. Go-go is the official music of Washington, D.C.
That's
always
great.
Has been, but now there's a law saying it.
Right.
You know what I
It's
mean?
on paper. It's not just, everybody knows it there. It's official. Oh, that's awesome. Do they do like
and
festivals every year to commemorate that or anything like that? Or
No, but we do have Chuck Brown Day. Chuck Brown passed away on May 16th. He would have been 88 years old on his birthday this past year, which was August 22nd, I believe. He would have been 88. And he passed away several years ago. They have the Chuck Brown Day every year. That's the big festival at Fort DuPont Park. They have a park here named after Chuck Brown, a little amphitheater. But the thing is, it's too small to hold all the people that come out to Chuck Brown Day.
right.
So, yeah, the go-go bands play at the nationally recognized Barbecue Battle on Pennsylvania Avenue in DC every June. But the bands play, you can see go-go any night of the week. You can definitely go to a show any night of the week here. So it's never really died. you just have newer bands, as people grew up and younger bands got into it. They have their own style called the bounce beat, which is involving more of a hi-hat drum. And, so it's different, but you still have your tried and true golden age of go-go fans that will come out whenever any of the bands have a reunion or
Right.
anything like that. Yeah.
So it sounds like it's kind of like if you were to go to New Orleans, for example, if you want to hear music, there's places to go to hear jazz or whatever. Same thing in D.C. If you want to hear a go-go band, pretty good idea that you'll find a place, right? That you could hear it
Yeah.
somewhere.
And that's what I would like, since DC named go-go as the official music of DC. I would love to see the DC government donate a building near the hotels in Northwest DC, similar to Preservation Hall, where you can go into Preservation Hall any night of the week in New Orleans and see jazz. I would like that for DC. That's my wish for DC.
Oh, wow. Hopefully that can happen. If there's any way to make that happen, that would be great. I'm sure. Hopefully you're speaking it into existence, right? Just all it takes is, some money, but beyond that.
Also, there is a go-go museum in development right now. Hopefully it's going to open in March. They actually have a mobile museum attached to the brick and mortar museum as well. A lot of events that have been going on. They bring the go-go museum out. People can get on. It's a old donated Metro bus that they've turned into the mobile museum. And I worked on a project for the museum that I think will be in the brick and mortar, where it's like a family tree, so to speak, where Chuck Brown is the trunk and all the other bands, like a lot of bands, are the leaves. And when you touch on a leaf of a band that you may want to, learn about, the Pump Blenders or Mass Extinction, somebody like that, Northeast Groovers, Backyard Band, anybody like that, you'll be able to punch the leaf and the bio will come up. I did the bios on all the different bands.
Oh, wow. I can imagine how much work that was, but that was probably fun for you to do at the same time.
That's It's going to be, the museum's going to be amazing. And if anybody comes to DC, I totally recommend, it's going to be on MLK Avenue, Southeast DC.
I am keeping note of that because I need to get back to DC. I haven't been there since 2009, I think. And that was before the MLK monument was put up, and I want to see that and many other things. I'm sure there's more to DC than just seeing, all the presidential stuff. So I definitely need to get back there. And now you give me another reason to go back there. So I'm going to keep.
For sure. Sure.
That's awesome. And you brought up the Backyard Band, and I'm a huge fan of The Wire. I didn't realize that Anwar Glover, who played Slim Charles on The Wire, was in that band. I was just my mind blown emoji when I read that online.
That's his band. Yes, that's his band. They've been going since the early 90s, I would say, mid 90s. And he's always been able to do both. He's a great actor. He's been in several things. But that band is a big priority. And I'll tell you, his band Backyard did a remake of Adele's Hello, and
oh my goodness.
no diss to Adele, but oh my God.
I can't even imagine. I wonder, is that on YouTube somewhere? Is that able to be found?
Is.
Okay.
It is hot. It's hot.
All right. I definitely need to check that out because that's such a mellow, slow record, and to hear them do it, I'm sure it takes it up a notch. I got to check that out.
It's very cool. And another place where you'll be able to see some live go-go performances, there's a guy here by the name of Nucci, who's the son of one of our rappers called Booby. And so Nucci has this thing called The Front Porch. So Nucci actually has groups come from all over. The Locks were just on there, and they perform right on his front porch, and he films it, and it's on YouTube.
That's awesome. I mean, that just gives you like that genuine, right? Just feeling like there's no big stage or, any kind of flash to it. It's just, here it is on the porch. That's awesome.
And honest, the Junkyard Band on Nucci's front porch is the best thing I've seen to come out of that whole series. And he's done a lot, but that is incredible.
Yeah, everybody listening, make sure you check out these these videos and check out this music. And we got to talk about the book too. How long has this book been in the works? And was there one thing that inspired you to do it, or something you've always thought about doing? How did the book come about?
So I've been involved in the music business, particularly go-go, for the past 35 years or so, I would say. But, during the 80s, the late 80s, early 90s, I was really involved with Public Enemy, Run DMC, all these people, because Howard University is here. And I was writing first for Straight from the Street. And then that was a springboard that led me to Rap Masters and Word Up. And so I always included go-go in these magazines, particularly because I had to do the Washington, Baltimore regional music report. Now, I don't know how much you know about Washington music and Baltimore music. Although we're 30 miles apart, the music might as well be 3,000 miles apart.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Baltimore was a house music town. And of course, D.C. with go-go. So it was interesting, but I got it done. So that was cool.
Yeah, I've had some independent hip hop artists like Rock Abraham, who's from DC, and Dirt Platoon from Baltimore, just throw out some couple of names, and they told me that their sounds are just so different and the music is not the same, even though, like you said, they're very close in proximity, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's the same. And the DMV, right, it's a whole different feeling. And
yes, it is. And I mean, we've had rappers here, DC Scorpio, Fat Rodney, DJ Cool, of course, Stinky Dink, Vinny D. We've definitely, those are the older ones, but we have like Garvey the Chosen One, like I mentioned before, One Way Booby,
right.
Fat Trell. So there are people, that have been able to make a living in the rap scene here. And I think financially it makes more sense because you don't have to pay 13 people, 12 people, because it's you and a microphone and a DJ, basically.
Right.
So the money goes a lot further.
Right. As opposed to like, the go-go bands where you've got like 11, 10, 12 people, whatever. And it's a whole setup where, you can just have like one guy and music playing off of a CD or a DAT or something, whatever, and you're done. You don't have to worry about three or four other people. Yeah, that's, wow. And, I can't even lie. I mean, what really got me interested in talking to you was because I'm just a big hip hop nerd. Your story is very similar to mine. I grew up because of Lottie Dottie. Like, that's a song that I heard on the bus or I heard going to school. And I took my money to the record store and bought Raising Hell and License to Ill and Fat Boys, whatever. So, like, that's like my growing up. And, you talking about, hearing Soul Searchers, that's kind of like very similar to what I was thinking too. For me,
because you grew up in the golden age of hip hop.
Oh my God!
You can't even compare what's out there now what you grew up on, what I grew up on. It's totally different, but there's some similarities. It's really funny. I wanted to pull this piece out of my book. I interviewed Chuck Chillout. He's a radio personality from WBLS in New York, also on Rock the Bells on Sirius XM. He has a great show. So Chuck Chillout, he's played go-go throughout his career, and he remembers the hip-hop go-go collaborations of the 80s and their appeal with the radio listeners in DC and New York and even beyond. And he basically was saying that the foundation of hip-hop was James Brown, Jimmy Castor, George Clinton, Sly and the Family Stone, and then Chuck Brown. So he said that growing up, that's all the music they heard growing up. And so those people I just mentioned put the blueprint in their heads for them to do the hip hop genre. Right.
It makes a lot of sense. And, you also talk about how you could hear the samples all over, when I'm playing like Trouble Funk Pump Me Up. Oh my God. I mean, there's like 20 songs I hear just from the first 30 seconds of that song. You think of all the songs that sampled it, and it's just
funny that you said, because I have a whole chapter in my book called Who Sampled Who. And Trouble Funk's Pump Me Up has been sampled 154 times.
Wow.
Some of the songs were Pump Up the Volume by the group Mars, If I Ruled the World by Curtis Blow, What I'm Monster by Lords of the Underground, Teddy's Jam by Guy, Jazzy Sensation by Africa Bambaataa. So there's a lot of people. Leave It Up to the Cut Professor by Dougie Fresh and the Get Fresh crew. Trouble Funk probably is the most sampled go-go band. Of course, there was some issues with the Beastie Boys. So Drop the Bomb has been sampled 37 times, and 3 of those by the Beastie Boys. In the New Style, Car Thief, and Hold It Now, Hit It.
Oh, right.
And I think there may have been some legal issue behind all of that. Chuck Brown and the Soul Searchers, Ashley's Roach Clip by the Soul Searchers, was sampled 473 times.
That we know of.
Right. And you can hear that in Paid in Full by Eric B. and Rakim, Hey Young World, Slick Rick, Set Adrift on Memory Bliss, PM Dawn, Run's House, Run DMC, Jack the Ripper by LL Cool J. So, I mean, it's a lot. It's just interesting. And Bustin' Loose was sampled Hot in Here by Nelly.
You know what? I never connected that, but now that you say it, yep, I can see it. It's right. Yep.
Yeah. So it's a lot, a lot of songs you hear, there are elements of go-go because go-go's been sampled in those songs.
And it's just like you said, going back with Chuck Chill Out, it's one of the foundations of the music and the genre. And, those break beats, those samples are just evident in a lot of those big songs. And like I said, Pump Me Up is a big one. I almost thought it was a hip hop record. I never thought of it as like a funk or a go-go record, but you could put it on a mix with any other hip hop song and nobody would blink an eye that it was like some other genre. It feels like a hip hop record. So
right. It's the percussion of it all in Pump Me Up. That's where it comes. So if you go back and really listen to it again, you'll be like, oh yeah, okay.
Right. I mean, one of my favorite movies, Juice, Omar Epps' character GQ, that's what he's cutting up to win the DJ contest. He's cutting up Trouble Funk, Pump Me Up, and he gets the crowd into it, the call and response into it and everything. So comes full circle.
Funk, yeah, Trouble Funk had 2 songs in the White Boy Rick movie that came out several years ago.
Oh, I did see that. I don't remember the songs that were in it, but I remember watching that movie a couple of years back. Okay.
Yep.
Wow. So, you got the book out now, and, everybody out there listening, go ahead and get a copy. And, that kind of brings me to hip hop music. You wrote for, as Biggie said, I used to read Word Up magazine. I remember,
right.
Rap Masters, Rap Pages, all these different magazines growing up as a kid. Talk about just some of the, the moments of just, I'm looking at some of the stuff you sent me, You wrote an article with Run DMC when they're doing like Down with the King. So it's kind of like at the other side of their big, peak. And then you got one with Onyx where the connection is Jam Master Jay because he produced them and obviously it was Run DMC and Onyx is on the come up and Run DMC was kind of, I don't want to say on their way down, but they were definitely in the twilight years.
Right.
What was it like just a dichotomy of, you're interviewing like this group that's hard and the new sound and this other one that's trying to reinvent themselves, right? And
yeah, and you just, I always like to make people look favorable. I mean, I really don't like to put people in a negative light. So, you just, I don't know, like Onyx was really cool. They were really, really cool people. And this was really kind of before Fredro Starr was doing all the movie stuff that he did. And so they were all just kind of new to the scene, new to the game. And it was just kind of cool seeing them and then watching them move on, like Fredro Starr, to other things. That's kind of cool. And then Public Enemy, that was always fabulous. And it was crazy because I got to the point where I really felt like I could talk to Chuck D about whatever. And, back then everybody was like, they're so against white people. They're so against white people. So I'm like, is that the image you guys want? Like, what do you really want to portray? He's like, no, it's not that we are anti-white. We're just pro-black.
Right.
And there is a difference. And that made so much sense to me. Of course, there was the controversy with Professor Griff.
Right.
Speaking out against the Jews. which, that still happens. I think one of the funnest memories I had was going out to dinner with Public Enemy after an interview with their regional representative, Thomas Lytell. He organized a dinner at the aquarium in Baltimore. So we're there eating dinner, and then Flav is late as usual. And
Right.
in walks Flav, and he takes off his hat, and it looks like he has his kid's science project on top of his head. I mean, his hair was just crazy. And it was just funny, and they were just really cool. I think they definitely were one of my favorites back in the day. And I think it's more than just the fact that I was around them. I think their music really spoke to me.
And it still does to this day. There's people
Oh, yeah.
who are still, they still make music. A lot of people probably aren't even aware. They're still active. They still put music out. And Prophets of Rage, the group they've done with, Be Real from Cypress Hill and members of Rage Against the Machine. And they're still out there putting out messages. And
Yeah.
you could go play some of their old stuff and it still resonates, especially in the climate we're in now politically, and
Right.
I met Chuck once and it was like one of my most memorable run-ins with any celebrity. He was everything I always thought he was and more. He was just so cool and awesome, and shout out to Chuck D. And yeah, and you've interviewed so many. I mean, there's House of Pain in one of the articles you sent me, and LL Cool
Yeah.
J, and it's funny, like LL's got a new album out. And in
Yes,
this article, it's about him doing his
right.
5th album. At the time, 5 albums in hip hop was a monumental, thing to do.
He was one of the first rap artists that I really paid attention to back in the day. I remember going to school. My first year in college was in 1985. And that was around the time he put out Rock the Bells. And Rock the Bells had some go-go elements to it.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
I remember being down in Salisbury, Maryland, where there was nothing but chicken. The Purdue factory's down there. And I don't even know how I went there, coming from like right on the outskirts of DC. And then you just had like, I don't know. I don't know why I did that. But anyway, people down there knew LL Cool J, and that was cool because they didn't know a whole heck of a lot. That was cool. But then I left and I transferred to Towson University right outside of Baltimore. And that was a much better fit for me.
There you go. I would imagine less chickens, right?
Right. Oh my God. When it rained, all you could smell was like dead, nasty chickens.
Oh my goodness. Makes you not want to eat it for sure. If you are someone who eats chicken, you might change your mind about it.
Right.
And another thing I was amazed at too is, with the articles that I saw, that you're talking to a lot of these groups, in hindsight, in 2024, when I think of House of Pain and Mobb Deep, and even Dr. Dre, I mean, they're like legendary status, so they've been around for 30 something years, but
Right.
you're interviewing them at the very beginning, or maybe their second album or something like that. Was it always a kick for you to kind of talk to artists that were maybe unknown or not quite, at that stardom peak yet too?
So it's cooler now to see what they were to what they became. You know what I mean? I love that. But I love the newness, and they weren't as guarded as to what they would say,
Right.
because they were more free with what they would talk about. Because now, I mean, decades later, their words have been twisted, against them and all this kind of stuff. But back then, they were green, they were naive. They felt more comfortable just being able to talk and share and have a meal, whereas now I think it would be more difficult. So I stopped writing for Rap Masters and Word Up probably in about 96. And then I took a break for a little while, just doing management and PR for some go-go bands here. Little Benny and the Masters being one, Legacy being another. And I had my own column in a DC platform that's now been shut down called examiner.com. And then I was working on the Heartbeat Conga Hour. Now that's an awesome podcast too. Heartbeat is a legendary conga player. He used to play with Gerardo, that had to hit Rico Suave. So
Right.
Heartbeat went all over the world with Chuck Brown, with Gerardo, a rock band called Dog Eat Dog. And so he has a podcast called the Heartbeat Conga Hour. And, you can Google it because he has a lot of people on there that are talking about what they're doing in go-go. And honestly, that's what my book is. It's like an oral history of go-go told by those people that created it and those people that kept it going. It's not like it's me sitting down telling the story of go-go.
Gotcha.
Not at all. You hear from, like I said, Salt's in here, Curtis Blow is in here, Davi Shark, who was part of the Get Fresh crew. It's funny because Davi Shark was with Dougie Fresh and the Get Fresh crew, and now he just put out a children's book on lead poisoning called Safety Cinnamon Saves a Friend. So going from that to writing children's books, I think that's super cool.
Yeah. That is definitely a 180, but a very important one. I mean, that's a book that obviously a lot of kids probably need to read, and there's a good message behind it too.
Yeah.
And like you said with your book, I mean, it's coming from their point of view and their perspective. So it's kind of like what you're doing when you're doing the articles, right? It's in that same kind of vein, right? It's their stories, and you're obviously helping get the story told and putting it all together.
Is right. And if you noticed by the articles that I sent you, you would see that I was always more of a quote person. It's not me telling the story.
Right.
Like my articles, I would set it up, but mine are mostly quote driven because people don't want to hear from me. They want to hear from the artist.
Only on here do they want to hear from you. On this podcast, yes. But otherwise, right. Go ahead.
You know what I mean? Like they just want me to ask the right questions that they want to know the answers to. Not me telling the answer. It's me getting this information out of them and presenting it to everybody, as a quote. So that's kind of been my style of writing all the time.
That's a good way to look at it because it makes a lot of sense. And I do get that when I read your articles is that you were definitely giving them the spotlight, that's why people are reading the magazines, right? They're reading it because they want to read what Run DMC has to say or Mobb Deep.
Exactly.
But you're definitely putting it in a way where, it works out where you're actually a part of it, but it's really about what they're saying. And that I'm guessing the book is a lot like that. And I'm definitely looking forward to it. Where can people find the book? I mean, we definitely should let people know how to get their hands on it.
So the book is on Amazon, in the search bar on Amazon. You can type in my name, Jill, and then my last name, Greenleigh, which is green like the color, Leigh. The book is called Go-Go Speaks, The Heartbeat of a Culture. And it is because go-go is the heartbeat of DC. Everybody's heart beats to that go-go beat. Washington is really two different places. You have Washington, D.C., and then you have D.C. And Washington, D.C. is the political part of it all. And D.C. is the real people that live here part of it all. And so D.C.'s heart beats go-go. So
that's awesome. And I wanted to ask you, too, being someone who, did, print media and magazines, now that we're in an era that, I'll be honest, I don't remember the last time I bought a magazine or a newspaper.
Right.
Does it kind of like, I don't know, I'm sure you're nostalgic for magazines too, but is there a part of you that feels like, wow, it's just so sad to see how media has changed? I'm not just talking about media on the news. I'm more just print media and journalism and that's probably a huge question. But I mean, is it tough for you to see that we just don't see magazine racks on the street anymore or newspapers? I mean, it's definitely, I miss it. I'll be honest.
So it's sad because, one of the cool things about Rap Masters and Word Up was the pictures.
The pinups.
You would you'd rip the picture out, put it up on your wall, of the latest and greatest for that month or whatever. And it's just not like that now. I mean, it's cool because you can read anything you want. It's all at your fingertips on your phone. You can get it whenever you want. You don't have to get up, get in the car, go to the store, buy the mag, come home. It's instantaneous. But I also think that being able to hold that magazine in your hand and turn the pages and, be able to cut things out and keep them in a scrapbook or whatever. You can't do that now.
It's not the same. Yeah. And I remember my sisters had Tiger Beats and Bop or whatever. And I had, I had Rap Pages and Rap Masters and Word Up magazine. Yeah. And I'd put those up on the wall with the Scotch tape and ruin the paints, of course. But,
right.
It's an era, man. Oh my God. I miss it.
things have changed, and we just have to go along with those changes, I guess.
Right. But we can get a hard copy of your book, and that's definitely something you could have in your hands, and that's important too. And definitely.
Yes.
Can people follow you online? Do you have like Instagram or Facebook you want to throw out there for people to catch up with
Yeah,
you and see when you've got things coming out? Yeah.
absolutely. My Facebook is just my name, Jill, Jill Greenleigh, green like the color, Leigh. And yeah, if you friend me on Facebook, that's cool. You can go on Instagram. It's also my name. And I don't, I'm a little older, so I'm not really in tune with Instagram that much, but Facebook, yes, you know.
No, I
And
know what you mean.
I'm always putting old articles up there and old pictures up there, pictures that I may have taken and things like that. There's a picture that was taken of me the day that I was telling you about in Baltimore. It's Chuck D and one of the S1Ws and me and somebody else that was on the Straight from the Street writing team. And there I am with my little short haircut and a beeper in my pocket.
A beeper. There you
You
go.
can see the beeper, and people were just totally clowning me when I put that picture up recently on Facebook, and yeah, people were totally, you got a beeper.
Those are good old days. Yeah, that 911 beep. That's how you knew it was an
That's
emergency.
right. Call me now, 911,
Oh my
911.
God. Kids today, or I shouldn't even say kids, I mean, even grown-ups don't even know what it's like. You get that beep and you got to go stop and find a payphone, call.
Right.
Why are you bothering me? It's like, it's a whole different time.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, but you know
Now
what?
my phone just rings and I just look at it. I don't want to talk to
Oh my
anybody.
God. I'm the same way. If it's important, I'll leave a message. I'll get back to them.
Yeah.
Text me. Don't call me.
Right. We have really become a society of, I don't know, what are we, snobs? I
Yeah,
don't know.
right. Well,
Talk to anyone.
I mean, we came up in the era where the phone was at home and you were left alone. You got to do things that I haven't always check a message or something. And now
So
it's like we're more accessible than ever. And
it's
sometimes it's annoying.
so true. We're too accessible.
Yeah.
We are too accessible.
Well, I'm glad you picked up the phone for this because I was really excited to talk about, the Go-Go book and Go-Go music in general. And like I said, once I knew you were going to come on, I started kind of getting into some of the music I was aware of. And I just realized the more as you go down that rabbit hole, like, oh my God, I know this song. Okay, this is a Go-Go record. I'm starting to get the idea of what the sound is. Like my ear is better now than it was maybe 10 years ago when I wouldn't be
Yeah.
able to pick up on things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a whole vibe. It really is. And it's made a lot of money for a lot of people here in DC that I really don't know what they would be doing otherwise. I mean, you have the band members, the promoters, you have the t-shirt, makers, and oh my God, the people that sell now it's not PA tapes anymore. It's PA CDs or thumb drives. I mean, it's just crazy.
Yeah. And like I said earlier, whenever I get back to DC, I definitely need to check out, all the things that DC has to offer in terms of go-go music and culture. And definitely looking forward to checking out those videos of the porch videos and everything.
And Nucci's name is spelled Noochie. Nucci's front porch
There it
is
is.
what it is. And I mean, but you'll see everybody. You'll see, oh my gosh, I think everybody's been on his porch performing.
That's so awesome. Jill, thanks so much for coming on the podcast, and everybody check out the new book. It's on Amazon, right? You mentioned all the places you can get it, but feel free to once again throw out where they can get the book.
Yeah, definitely Amazon. Unless you're in DC, then if you're on my Facebook, I go out and do book signings. I do a lot of book signings where you can come pick up the book for a little bit less than what it's selling for on Amazon. And I'll personalize it to you and we'll talk. You can ask any questions. Yeah. So
And check out
that's
Jill with the Beeper on Facebook. You go. I think I'm going to go right after I hang up with you. I'm going to go look at that picture because I don't know if I saw it or not.
It's hilarious. It really is.
Well, beeper was part of like, I'm putting myself out. I'm fronting myself a little bit. I used to have a beeper with no battery in it, but I just do it back then in the 90s because it was cool to have a beeper. Like you wanted to feel like you're important, but it wasn't turned on or anything.
Oh my God. I just remember my beeper would get cut off every month because I wasn't responsible about paying bills back then.
Right.
So I'd have to drive to the beeper place, which was like, I don't know, 40 minutes away or something. And I'd have to give them money. Sometimes my mom would be in the car. Where are we going? We got to go pay my beeper. Well, why do you have a beeper? You're not a doctor. Don't worry about it. You know?
You're not a doctor or a drug dealer. Those are the two things, right? That you're considered.
Right.
Yeah, I wore a beeper with no battery, wasn't turned on. It was just part of it's like wearing a watch. It was like you had to have it.
Right.
It's an accessory. Yeah. So crazy. The stuff we used to do that nobody of this era could even comprehend whatsoever.
You're like, what's a beeper? Anybody who's 35 and under, what's a beeper?
No idea.
What's a cassette?
What's a cassette? Right. All those things that you guys used to play. Yeah. Which I guess are sort of, I don't know if comeback is the right way to phrase it, but they're out there in some fashion, right? Just like vinyl came back kind of sort of as like a novelty thing.
Right. And in the beginning, when we were talking, I said I would take my allowance and go buy the latest Go-Go 12-inch. So let me explain. A 12-inch is actually a vinyl record that is as big as an album. So it is 12 inches. But it only had like one song on it that went for the whole album, which is what Go-Go does. It's long.
There you go. Well, I mean, and just to take it from my era too, I think I was like 10 years old when I bought Raising Hell, and it was in a glass case, so a guy had to come with a key and open it. Like I couldn't just grab it. It wasn't like Sam Goody or something. This is like some ma and pop place, in Chicago here. And I would just like point because I was short. I was like, that one, I want that one. He just took the key and he did the thing and he slid the glass over. Here you go, kid. It's like that. So.
No, I got one. This will kill you. This is hilarious. So my grandparents, so I'm not trying to say, but my grandparents lived on Park Avenue in Manhattan, okay, which is pretty exclusive area. And they would call me, I must have been 10, and they would always call, well, what would you like for Hanukkah? Because we're Jewish. What would you like for Hanukkah? I'm like, I want the latest Parliament Funkadelic album and also the Brides of Funkenstein. And they were like, oh. And so we hung up, and then they called my mom and my dad. They're like, what is it that she wants?
That's great. Did you get it?
Yeah, I got it.
There you go. See?
I was spoiled. I was so spoiled.
Hey, I give it to them because I had the same issue. I'd write a list like, I need Kumodi, Knowledge is King tape or something. And my parents were like, what the hell is that? What are the Fat Boys? What is this? But they got it. They found it. They went to Coconuts or wherever the heck they went and asked the guy at the counter.
But I will say this. I know we're wrapping up the interview, but it was kind of difficult in my life. I faced some challenges because I'm a white person in this predominantly Black male dominated business, to the point my mother grew up in Virginia. And so where she grew up, she really didn't even know any Black people. She was born in 1940. And, that was just, the schools were still segregated back then. And it's just kind of what it was. And I remember the first time I came home from New York visiting my grandparents, I went to the magazine store up on 86th Street. And I bought every single issue of Word Up and I brought it home. I'm like, Mom, Dad. I was screaming. I'm like, look, I'm in the magazine. And my mom just was like, what are you getting so excited about? I'm not reading that. Like, so from my own family, I felt more accepted by outsiders than my own family. And that was really difficult. That was extremely difficult. It's sad because music is supposed to be something that brings everybody together. And I think they just couldn't understand why this young white girl, was immersing herself in this Black culture.
Right.
And it wasn't. I was still me, but I was just doing a job. I was doing what I was doing. And, it was just who I was and who I am. And, I always used the fact that I was white to open doors for people that may not have had doors easily open for them.
There you go.
And I always did that. I tried to be that face where people, it would unarm them. So they wouldn't be, oh, well, if this white lady is doing it, I guess, I'm not trying to say that there's anything wrong with it, because there's nothing wrong with it. Music is music. But just to see that there, people are embracing and surrounding, hopefully in my time, my years of being involved, I've helped people. That's all I ever strive to do, is help people.
There you go.
So hopefully I did.
I think so. I definitely think so. And everybody out there, make sure you go check out Jill's book, Go-Go Speaks, The Heartbeat of a Culture. Everybody go out there, look it up online, follow Jill, check out her beeper pics. And I just, so much fun talking to you, Jill. And like I said, a lot of what you're saying parallels myself. Being a white guy who liked hip hop music, it was always weird when I went to the suburban high school and I was the only one who liked it. And I had to explain why I liked it, because it was a predominantly white school and I was the outcast. But sometimes it was cool to be the outcast,
That's because it taught you to stand up on your own and never be sorry for what you like.
Right.
And it made you unique, and you can do whatever you want to do.
You got that right. Sorry, I don't like Pearl Jam the same way you guys do. It's fine. I'm going to go over here, and listen to Compton's Most Wanted or whatever. Leave me alone. So whatever.
Now, don't get me wrong. I love Alice in Chains.
Yeah, I do too. There's no problem with them. Yeah. But if you're going to judge me.
Right.
Oh, well. Jill, thanks so much for coming on the podcast here. It was so much fun. It's called Infinite Banter, so there's no time limit. You don't worry, you didn't go over the time or anything. So thanks so much for doing this. And I probably have an old Word Up magazine or Rap Masters book that I need to go find and see. You probably got some articles in there that I didn't even know about. So that's awesome.
Yeah. It was my pleasure. I really appreciate the opportunity. And, if I can spread the word about go-go, and just, the golden age of hip hop. Those were fun times.
Oh my God. Yeah. And I, like I said, I have a 5-year-old daughter, and I'm kind of I'm not trying to push her, but she definitely knows about Run DMC and the Beastie Boys and all that stuff. So any little bit that she catches on to until she thinks it's not cool, which usually happens around teenage years. I know I got a small window here, but maybe. Besides the Taylor Swift and Coco Melon stuff that she likes. Maybe eventually.
I have no doubt that you will make it happen.
There you go. But yeah, thanks so much. And really looking forward to the book. And everybody listening, make sure you follow Jill online and get the book yourself. And really a pleasure talking with you, Jill.
Thank you. You too.
Yo, this is DJ Chill Will with Dougie Fresh and the Get Fresh crew. And you're listening to Infinite Banter with my man, DJ Soundwave. Let's go.
What a blast that was talking with Jill. And it's just crazy how when she tells stories about her, asking her parents for funk albums and going to the record store and all that. And it just parallels what I did as a kid. And I mentioned it in the interview there. And there's just so many memories as she's talking. She's just opening up all these file folders in my head of times I did the exact same thing. I probably talked about it on this podcast before, saving money, going to the record exchange in Rogers Park. And I remember my first cassette I ever bought with my own money was Run DMC Raising Hell, and that was just monumental at the time. But most of the music I had back then, I was recording it off of the radio, but that Raising Hell one, to have that cassette in my hand, it took things to the next level, and that essentially is why I'm here doing this now. So I touched on it with Jill in the interview there. So one of the articles she wrote about was talking to LL Cool J about putting out his 5th album at the time. 14 Shots to the Dome, which, at the time in like 1992 or whatever year it was, that was a monumental thing. I mean, nobody thought anyone would have 5 albums, right? Now it's commonplace for a hip-hop act or artist to have 5 albums. I mean, there's independent artists putting out 5 albums a year. So it's not that big a deal now. Going back to the early 90s, yes, it was. But what I'm trying to say from that point of view is that, so LL had 5 albums at that time when she was talking to him. Fast forward to 2024, LL's about to release an album, which would make it, this just crossed my mind as I'm talking here. He's going to have an album released in 5 different decades. If that doesn't make you feel old, I don't know what does. Because his first album came out in the 80s, of course in the 90s, the 2000s, 2010s, and now he's about to drop one here in 2024. That's 5 different decades with an LL Cool J release. I don't think anybody else can claim that. I don't think there's anybody else that has. That's amazing. That's just, maybe Public Enemy has done it. There's no one else I could think of that has done that. So salute to LL, and I believe Public Enemy also might be in there as well. I'd have to look up their release dates for albums, but that's just bonkers. It makes me feel so damn old. Salute to LL. Jill's done some great stories, and I looked up that picture of her with Chuck D and with the beeper. You got to check it out. Follow her on Facebook, Jill Greenleigh, and check out her book, Go-Go Speaks, The Heartbeat of a Culture. I have some Rap Masters magazines and some Word Up magazines somewhere in the storage locker here. I need to dig those up and find if she maybe was writing any articles during the time I bought those. I'm sure she's in a few of these. So, man, the era of magazines, I definitely missed it. Definitely used to buy them whenever I got a chance. But the thing with the beeper is true. I used to not pay the bill, or the battery would be low or something and it didn't work, but I would still put it on. You just put it on every day. It was like the same as getting your keys and your watch and your wallet. The beeper was part of an accessory to your day. You couldn't leave the house without it, even if that thing was on or not. You know, obviously the gray ones were the big ones, but I had a couple of those see-through kind where they were like clear, and those are pretty cool too. I don't know if those were kind of the last run of beepers. I think I last had one maybe like in 99 or something. I don't remember having one much past that. And I think it had the time on there. I think it was like having a clock or a watch. I didn't wear watches. I still really don't. So I think the beeper was my way of knowing what time it was. So it was a good thing to have just to know what time it was in the day. Yeah, but people would always put that 911, like, why you didn't call me back? Like, well, there was no payphone, or I didn't have any change. You know, you could avoid people easier back in those days. When beepers came out, it was kind of like a nuisance because you felt like you had to stop what you were doing and go find a phone and call them back. That's nothing compared to now, where it's like, I text you, you said you read it. It said you read the text. Why didn't you respond? Or I saw you saw the message. Why didn't you say anything? I know you got the call. You're holding your phone all the time. So yeah, you can't avoid people anymore. If I don't answer a phone call, you know, from somebody who matters, basically, I got to explain what I was doing. Why didn't I answer the phone? So it's a whole different era. She definitely it took me back with that beeper picture. So big thanks to Jill Greenleigh. Definitely go find her on Facebook and Instagram. And again, can't push it enough. Amazon. You can find that new book, Go-Go Speaks, The Heartbeat of a Culture. Go check it out. Grab a copy today.
Yeah, what's up? This your boy, the legendary Cool Rock Ski from the legendary Fat Boys. I'm here on Infinite Banter, and we're going to rock the house. Yes, sir.
Time for you to leave, assholes.
That is Kirk Acevedo telling me it's time to go, and that is exactly what I'm going to do. But before I get out of here, you know, another thing that Jill had talked about in the interview that I definitely wanted to touch on a little bit is she wrote this book and she's done magazine articles and things like that with the idea that hopefully, you know, she enlightened people on the music and the culture. And, you know, same thing, you know, doing this podcast, it's the same idea. You know, when I have someone like her on here, it's not just to teach me about go-go music, because I don't pretend to know everything. There's a lot of stuff that I'm into, but I don't know everything that's ever been made or how everything's been done. That's why I do this, is so I can learn more and be enlightened on something. And I know way more about go-go music talking to her than I ever could have just going on YouTube or Wikipedia or something. And, of course, reading her book will definitely enhance that even further. So, yeah, this podcast, that's what it's for. It's to bring stories like that to people. Maybe there's somebody listening who's like, I've heard of go-go music, but I don't really know what that is. I hope that now you're more interested into it. You maybe want to go look it up and maybe look for an EU or a Trouble Funk or Chuck Brown and listen to their songs. And if you're a hip-hop fan, this is going to be a lot of fun because you're going to play songs by Trouble Funk and hear something like, oh, my God, I know that sample. As you talked about, you know, Pump Me Up has like 200 samples in it. And it's just crazy how connected funk music and soul music and go-go music and hip-hop music, they're all intertwined with each other in some way or some form. Being a fan of hip-hop music is what got me to listen to old soul music and R&B records and stuff like that. Parliament, James Brown. I wouldn't have played those on my own. It is because I wanted to know, why were they always sampling James Brown? Well, let me go back and hear it. I just love how music from the past and the future can tie in, and even stuff from the past could even tie into something further back that you go back and listen to. I think Stetsasonic had a verse, I want to say it was in Talking All That Jazz, where they said something to the effect of, we don't sample artists to take from them, it's to pay homage, to like let you know this is what was going on back then, and check these artists out. Like this, it's kind of basically a way of reminding people of the music before. So definitely check out Jill Greenleigh's book, Go-Go Speaks, The Heartbeat of a Culture. It's on Amazon, and go follow her on Facebook and Instagram. But that's it for me, the Infinite Banter Podcast. Follow the show on Facebook and Instagram as well, and Twitter at Infinite Banter Podcast. Go on YouTube, type Infinite Banter for clips from past guests. There's a few episodes on there as well. Not all of them, because there's copyright reasons, so I can't put them all up on there. But definitely check them out. Go on Spotify, check out the playlist. That's where I take in songs from every artist that has been on here, and it's just growing and growing. It's somewhere in the 20-hour range right now. And there's poll questions on there. And rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts and Podchaser. Anywhere you hear podcasts, they usually have an option. You can put stars or write a review or a critique, and I appreciate all those that do. And as always, check out our sponsor, super7.com/Infinite Banter Podcast. Go get yourself a Bruce Lee figure or a Thundercats figure. Go do it. And you go to that link, it means we're pushing traffic there. They recognize it, that it came from here, and then I get a kickback. So salute to you that do that. Well, that's it for me, the Infinite Banter Podcast. Once again, big thanks to Jill Greenleigh. Had a blast talking to her. Check out her book, Go-Go Speaks, The Heartbeat of a Culture. You can find it on all platforms, especially Amazon. But until I do another one of these, I'm out.
Hey, asshole, get off the road.
Being on the Infinite Banner with my man Mark has been a pleasure.